I've been losing my mind.
I'm back, and spoiler alert, I friggin' made it. I made it. I did it. I hiked Half Dome, and I am so freaking proud of myself. Feels good. You might be wondering why I'm acting so crazy if you haven't seen my last video, but in my last video I talked about how I I failed, but I don't like to call it failing because I didn't really fail. I didn't finish my hike to Half Dome in 2022. I only made it as far as Sub Dome. But this was my year. This was my year after scoring another Half Dome permit in April, and I was so ready. I was so ready. I had been going to the gym. I'd really been working out. I had been worrying about my health. The craziest part about doing this hike for the second time was we ended up having to do it a totally different way. Not only were we not going to do it in one day, which was the benefit of redoing this hike, but the original plan, it was out the window. It wasn't what we thought it was going to be. We thought, when we got our permit, which we didn't, we thought we'd end up taking it the same route, but just breaking it up into more days, essentially. We thought we were gonna do Happy Isles, Mist Trail, camp at Little Yosemite Valley, and then hike Half Dome the next day, breaking up the hike into 2 days. That was the original plan. We were all on the same page as a group, and we were like, yeah, we got this. That's gonna be the plan. Until the permit system. That permit system, breathe. The permit system drives me nuts. Comment below if you've dealt with the permit system at Yosemite or any permit system. It is just an insane madhouse when you go to these very popular destinations and when you're choosing to go kind of during a prime time of the year. This permit system had a totally different plan for us. It didn't really matter what we did. I woke up before 7 a.m. They released wilderness permits 1 week before our actual hiking date. And so we all woke up, the whole group, we woke up, we got online on recreation.gov and we tried to get that permit right at 7 a.m. and they were all booked up. I mean, there wasn't that many. It looked like there was maybe 12 available. I mean, it was a very small amount. I don't know what happened. Like, we all tried and none of us, the system crashed essentially. Like we had it and then we didn't, and it was panic and it was, we couldn't get it. We weren't able to snag that Little Yosemite Valley permit. I remember in that moment going, what are we gonna do? So we scrambled for plan B. You have to really pay attention to the finer details of all of these permits because each of them have their own rules associated with them on where you can stay and blah, 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 blah. The only availability that we saw, and we saw permits getting booked as we were going. So we did feel this urgency to book anything at that point. Well, luckily I saw a permit available for Glacier Point to Illilouette Basin, or to Illilouette. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And it allowed you to camp in Little Yosemite Valley for the second night. We already had the Half Dome permit, so that was squared away, but all we needed to do is find a way to stay at Little Yosemite Valley so we could do that Half Dome hike the next day. I booked it. I didn't even care how much it cost. It was whatever. It was, I think, a total of $30. I can't really remember. I'll put the actual price right here. But I just booked it and I was like, this is our plan B. So this is my advice to you. Make sure when you're getting your wilderness permits at Yosemite is you look at the details. Make sure you know exactly where you're staying the first night and where you can and can't stay the first or second night. So it was kind of interesting how this permit didn't allow you. It was very explicit. It said you cannot stay at Little Yosemite Valley on night 1, but you can night 2. So we decided to give this a try. This trip, which was first a 1-night trip, turned into a 2-day backpacking trip starting from Glacier Point. In the moment, I was kind of like, shit. But after I thought about it, I was like, I'm not upset about this. I get to start from one of the most beautiful viewpoints in Yosemite, descend into the valley and camp an extra night. I'm not upset about this. It was jarring because it changed the whole plan when you had been planning for X amount of months, 6 months to a year, So, but there was a renewed excitement. I was like, I'm gonna do this. I haven't backpacked in a long time, but 2 nights, no biggie, right? So instead of me explaining this whole thing to you, let's just get into it. I'm gonna show you what it was like on this hike, and it was really a glorious time, and I've already spoiled the end, but I did make it, so watch for the finale. But yeah, let's get into it. We drove to Yosemite overnight, stayed in Fresno actually just to chop up the drive because we were all leaving after work. And we drove to Yosemite the next morning, arriving around 9 to 10 a.m. You have to pick up your permit at least 11 a.m. We parked, we went to the wilderness permit area, which is actually right next to the visitor center, checked in with a ranger, and we picked up our permit. And they gave us all of the outlines of, leave no trace behind. They asked me if I had a bear canister, which is actually a requirement of these permits. When you camp in the backcountry of Yosemite, you are required to have a bear canister. And I did. I researched. I had a bear canister. She said that you can also rent a bear canister from the rangers for your hike if you don't have one. She gave us rules on how to manage our food, how to keep it away from the tent, but not too far away from the tent. And I remember thinking, gosh, I hope I don't run into a bear on this hike. I don't want that experience, but it was good to know that we had the how to manage our food out there. Now, here we are, we've got our permit, and it is time to head to Glacier Point to start this hike. Very exciting. Now here we are. We started our trek at Glacier Point, and the ranger said we'd have no problem leaving our car here for a few days for the hike, and they didn't give us any permits or anything to display. There was this moment right when we started the hike that there was this flash of panic that settled in with the group as we walked the area trying to find the trailhead, and suddenly understanding the weight of our packs. We soaked in the view, I talked everyone down from their panic, and I reminded the group, hey, this is supposed to be fun. And we trekked on with a renewed purpose.
I've been losing my mind, trying to figure it out, but I'm stuck in a drought. I guess I'll start again.
The great thing about this unconventional way to hike Half Dome is you start from higher up at Glacier Point, which sits at about 7,214 feet in elevation. So majority of the hike for the first day was going to be going down to about 5,800 feet in elevation, where we were going to camp at Illilouette Basin. The weather for day one was absolute perfection. Although there were still a few uphills, it was mostly just stunning views going down along the Illilouette Creek, which were just so pretty. We hiked 4 miles to where we planned on camping for the night. I loved this spot next to the river. I wish I had more time here, or maybe if we arrived earlier, I would have swam a bit, but we got there around 4 p.m. and we were looking to just rest up and set up camp. We made our camping meals by boiling some water with our backpacking stove, drank and cheers the beers that we bought up at Curry Village. These were so delicious. And we placed our beer canisters at least 50 feet away from the tent and called it a night at around 8:30 p.m. When we woke up, we were greeted with some light mist and some lightning and thunder in the distance. It was actually a pretty cool morning. We loved it. So we got up, we filtered some water from the river, made breakfast, packed up, and headed back onto the trail, knowing that we planned on meeting our friend at Little Yosemite Valley, where we would be camping for night 2. This is the part of the trip where we got so amped we were actually out here and doing the damn thing and loving it. The rain at the moment was exhilarating and exciting, and it made the whole atmosphere in the forest feels so alive and exciting. Today's journey would be about 5 miles. The moment we started hiking, the more it started to rain. We had to cross the river, which I didn't get footage of, but it was a bit of an ordeal, and we were forced to pull out our ponchos as we trekked through the valley. It's a good thing too, because it also helped keeping our gear stay dry. We tried not to worry that the weather would affect our eventual Half Dome hike. And although we were getting wet, all we could do was laugh about it at this point. The views were phenomenal, and we only ran into one group of people. It just felt like we had the park to ourselves. We made it to the top of the ridge and could see Nevada Falls below and knew we weren't far from our destination. When we made it down and to the top of the falls, essentially to the top and end of the mist trail, it was packed with people. After being so far removed from civilization for more than a day, I forgot about the chaos Yosemite can bring. We trekked on, meeting up with our friend at the Backpackers Campground in Little Yosemite Valley. We picked any spot available, permit ready in case they checked, and set up camp near one of these community fire pit areas. I wouldn't say the campground felt crowded, but there were definitely lots of people around and passing through. There was this little magical moment when it started to mist among the moody sunshine, and I just loved this moment. It made me feel so alive because it was so beautiful. It was just a mixture of trees and sunbeams and rain and just this forest of silence, and I just friggin' loved it. We checked out the river and filtered water to refill our bottles and hydration packs. The water was ice cold, but it felt so good to my sore muscles. After relaxing and taking a load off, cooking up some dinner, we had a big talk. Me and my friend Cara made the decision that we were going to wake up at 4 a.m. to start the Half Dome hike. And if it was rainy, we were going to make the decision not to go. We were going to choose safety first, and that's always what you should do when out on the trail. Lucky for us, the morning was perfect, and we actually got up on time. I brought a fanny pack to store my bladder and snacks in, and once we were packed up, we pulled ourselves together and we hit the trail with a sense of excitement. There were a couple groups who started when we did, and although all of our paces differed, it was reassuring to know that there were other people out in the pitch darkness of the trail with us. The trail went by a lot quicker than we thought it would as we continued to climb the 3 miles up. We made it to the exact spot I had given up and stopped at the last time I attempted this hike, and it was a little emotional knowing that from this point on, I had no idea what to expect of this Half Dome hike. People are not kidding about Subdome being difficult. We scrambled up, taking our time, and then we saw it. The cables. Everyone on this trail is so friendly. It was still early in the morning and the sky was mostly clear, but more importantly, dry. And everyone up on the mountain was in good spirits. I love this part of the hiking community. So the unfortunate part here is I have no footage of me ascending the cables. I was trying to save my phone battery so I could take photos up at the top. Not to mention, as I'm climbing, there's no freaking way I would have been able to pull out my phone to take a picture. I was holding on for dear life. I was so nervous. I told myself, do not look down. I couldn't believe I was actually in this moment as I climbed. I was thrilled and excited and absolutely terrified, and I just kept my eyes on the prize. I was like, just climb one rung at a time. And luckily it wasn't that busy as we ascended, so that was really good. So I just took it one slat at a time, one wooden post as you pull yourself up the chains, sometimes taking 2 at a time, and not realizing that I would have to actually be stepping over some granite steps. And I remember when I got halfway up, I was getting tired. I knew it was going to be a lot of upper body strength, but dang, when I was on that, we had already been hiking for 2 days. I got halfway up and I was feeling it. My arms were screaming, and I couldn't believe I had made it this far. And I was like, holy crap, I can't turn around now. First off, I feel like turning around is scarier than going forward at this point. I was so high up. But then there was this sweet angel behind me. There was a group behind me, and we had been kind of cheering each other on. Every wooden rung I would make it past this point, she would just be like, you got this, Alex. You got this. Just a little bit more. Oh my God. Bless this woman's freaking heart. I was like, I'm gonna hug you up at the top. And she was like, I'm gonna hug you. And we just friggin' went. We just went go, 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 go. She got me through this climb. I knew Cara was behind me, and we were just like, we got this, we got this. And then getting to the top, with my arms screaming and my legs burning. And I just remember climbing up to the top of rocks and being like, I fucking did it. I did it. Me and Cara were practically in tears up at the top. I had freaking did it. We had freaking did it. We had accomplished so much, and I just felt so strong. And the best people were up there too. We all chatted and exchanged advice and tips and all helped each other take photos. And it was just cool to bask in a group that all felt bonded over this experience of hiking Half Dome. It was just so beautiful in so many different ways and magnificent of just being with all of these people and taking in the view and just being yes. I knew doing the hike for the second time was going to mean a lot to me. And, I really wanted to overcome it, but I didn't realize how powerful this trip really was. I don't know if there was just so much angst behind it with failing the first time and preparing the second time and getting my friends all excited for the whole experience, that it felt like so much was riding on this moment. And the fact that I did it, I felt alive. I'm so proud of myself. We hung out as long as we could and had to head back after about 30 minutes of kind of basking and enjoying the view because we had to remind ourselves we had the entire hike out left for the rest of the day. So we trekked on. When me and Kara got back to camp, we immediately cold plunged into the river, needing something to like restart, reboot, and energize us for the next 5 miles that we knew we were going to have to hike out. And it was just a lot. You know, I think in that moment when we jumped into the river, we couldn't believe that we hiked Half Dome that morning and then came back down to join the boys and had another 5 miles ahead of us. And we were like, we got to do this. We got to find a way to pull ourselves together and get back to that car and then drive to that Airbnb that we were all excited to go to and sit in that jacuzzi. So we ended up taking the John Muir Trail out and kind of making an unfortunate decision in the hopes of shortening the trail by going through the Mist Trail a little bit, but it was really rough on our knees. I don't ever recommend going down the Mist Trail if you can avoid it. And we ended up going all the way to Clark's Point and then hiking back up, again, not the best decision on our part, to get back onto the John Muir Trail and then head down and making it out at Happy Isles. I think, you know, I think it's easy to make these decisions when you're in the trail and you think, oh, I'm going to take the shortcut because I don't want the elevation gain. I think the realization is every time I hike or every time I backpack that there is no shortcut. Like, it's always going to be a little bit difficult, so just stick to what you planned. I think you're just going to feel better in the end. Regardless, we made it. Knees aching, be that as it may. We made it back to our friend's car, and then he drove us back to Glacier Point to my car, where we dropped off our stuff, and we took both cars, and we headed back to the Airbnb for a relaxing evening that we totally and epically deserved. What a trip. The funny part about this is by the time we made it to town to where the Airbnb was, it was kind of past 9 o'clock after the drive. And if you've ever been in small towns, you know that the food kind of closes early. So we didn't really have many options. And so the hilarious part about this, because again, we deserved anything that our heart desired, we ended up going to McDonald's and pretty much buying the entire menu and taking it back to the Airbnb, eating all the junk food and the soda, and then having a couple drinks and sitting in the jacuzzi and just like having a really good time. I loved this Airbnb. I wish I took footage of it, but again, like after this point, I was so exhausted. I was just like, I need a rest. And shout out to this Airbnb. We got in late and they knew it, and they allowed us to check out late the next day. So we got to even enjoy this Airbnb a little bit longer and stayed until noon. It was just like the little reward that we all needed before getting back on the road to head home. I remember getting up that morning and making a cup of coffee and meeting Kara outside on the patio of this Airbnb, and the weather couldn't have been more perfect. It was like nice and cool, clear skies, trees just like everywhere. And I remember, you know, we had our coffee and we just looked at each other and we were just like, fucking did it. We hiked Half Dome. It's just like, those moments are sort of precious, you know, after these big trips, these big accomplishments, and these big physical challenges. There was just so much hype and so much training and getting all the gear and training for months and like all this sort of stuff. We were just so proud of ourselves. And I know they call this a bucket list hike, but it really tests you in all sorts of ways. But it is so rewarding. This hike is so rewarding. So there you have it. I finally hiked Half Dome. What a wild ride. You know, I know that we went kind of an unconventional way. Usually people take the Mist Trail up, but I highly recommend, if you don't want the trouble of getting that little Yosemite Valley permit just to stay the night, try getting the Glacier Point Illilouette permit and camp 2 nights. It was such a beautiful hike 100% of the time. I loved every viewpoint. I got to camp next to the river. It was such a magical experience, and it allowed me to savor being in Yosemite a little longer. Going the extra night with my closest friends and my fiance, it just was so much fun. No matter how many mental breakdowns we had, it was still a lot of fun. If you've made it this far, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Thank you for carrying on this wild journey with me. And if you liked this video, please like and subscribe. I'm really trying very hard to get to 1,000 subscribers, so any little bit helps. I'm hoping to provide you a lot of exciting content in the coming end of the year. We got a lot of trips planned and some Airbnb experiences that I'm excited to share. And I would like for us to do it together. Let's do this together. So like and subscribe. And remember, if you haven't seen me fail hiking Half Dome, You gotta watch that video. I'll try to put it somewhere and link it. And remember, no risk, no magic. Catch you in the next one.
I've been losing my mind, trying to figure it out, but I'm stuck in a drought. I guess I'll start again.